welcome back to the Mintner Method. I'm your host, Andrew Mintner, and on today's episode, we are going to look at the premier matchup for Week 4, which is going to be between Tennessee and Oklahoma. Now, there are a couple of things that need to be taken into consideration here when looking at these games. Obviously, we have a very small sample size leading in, and so these rankings and some of these statistics are going to change over time. I mean, I think we could say that definitively, right? But if we look at these rankings with some context, then we can really see some advantages when we're looking at certain things. So we are following a trend this week that I kind of been researching for a couple of weeks now. I wanted to implement it and see how well it does. We are looking at teams that are ranking highly in early down success rate. And so basically EPA per attempt, which is like an efficiency metric. And so when I say early downs, I mean first and second down. Now, I'm going to say this just in case you haven't watched the other episodes and videos. It's a statistic to help show the efficiency of a team in staying out of high leverage situations. So it's a statistic that makes football sense. It's not some random cherry picked, situational statistic that just, fits your narrative, right? If teams do really well on first and second downs, they face less third downs. If they face less third downs, they face less high leverage situations. Therefore, it, decreases the volatility of a game. And so that's especially from the offensive standpoint. From the defensive standpoint, if a defense does really well on first and second downs, it forces more third and longs, which obviously third and long is harder to convert than third and short. I mean, this is common sense. I feel like I shouldn't have to say that, but just to explain the overall take on it. So Tennessee, mind you, these statistics here are only against FBS teams. So Division I teams, it does not count if you played FCS or anything like that. These are just for FBS teams, Division I, right? So Tennessee on early downs, they're 71st in EPA per pass attempt, and they pass the ball 34.5% of the time. That ranks 109th. And I know that's kind of a misconception. People think, Tennessee is this super high-flying offense, and they are, but that's not always because they throw the ball all the time. Anyone who's watched any of their games, they run, just spread out formations, and they run from those formations. And it just forces the defense to be, stretched thin, essentially. So they're 6th in EPA per rush attempt on early downs, and then 21st overall. Now, when looking at Oklahoma, they actually have a pretty solid defense. But the caveat to that is the schedule they've played. They played Temple, Houston, and Tulane. Now, it's not like shitting on those teams or anything, but we have to be realistic here. These rankings need to be taken with a different thought process, correct? Now, I know you're going to say, well, Andrew, Tennessee hasn't played anybody. Well, yeah, they played NC State, and they murdered them by almost 7 touchdowns. So, NC State is better than any team that Oklahoma has played yet. But that's not the point I'm trying to make here. Oklahoma has not played a great schedule, but when we look at these rankings here, these are not good rankings for who they face. They should be much higher. Obviously, Tennessee is not going to be the number 1 overall defense in early down EPA by the end of the year. I don't believe that. But they're outperforming. They're doing very well against who they're playing, which Oklahoma on the offensive side of the ball is not, and they should be dominating those teams in these early downs. And as we dive into the advanced statistics, you're going to see kind of some eye-opening things here, okay? So we're going to dive to Oklahoma's offensive side of the ball. First things first, they are 115th in predicted points per attempt. So that's essentially the same thing as EPA. It's an efficiency metric. Okay, and these statistics here are overall. They're overall situations and downs. Okay, so They're 46th in explosiveness, 79th in stuff rate, 87th in offensive line yards rate. It's just these aren't great. They're very below average, rankings. 98th in offensive rushing predicted points per attempt, and 117th in passing. That's just not good enough. Like I said, Tennessee is not some world beater defense. Let's look at their returning production, right? So 59th in returning production from a top 25 defense last year. But, then that's not shitting on Tennessee's defense. They very well could be a top 15 defense overall this year when it's all said and done. But nobody is sitting here being like, oh, yeah, they're going to be top 3. They're going to be, Alabama circa 2010, Nobody's saying that. They're good. They're good, but they're not going to be like, the reason Tennessee wins and plays for a national championship or even makes the playoff. That's going to be because of the offense. So Oklahoma struggling against the likes of Tulane, Temple, Houston, of all teams, that's very concerning in this matchup. Now, neither team is going to have a rest advantage. They both played last week. So there's not going to be a bye week advantage for either of them. But I have to say I am really concerned at how this is going to play out. Now, obviously, Oklahoma being at home, it's so trite and cliche, but home teams in college football, they seem, it's a college player psyche. They just play better at home. And that's a trope, but, whatever. But I'm going to tell you right now, if Tennessee jumps on them early, it's not going to matter that they're at home in Norman, Oklahoma. It's going to be worse. Like, it's going to be even more, depressing of a game. So, that's just something to take into consideration when looking at it. Now, overall for me, this is a pretty easy angle, easy play. I think leaning into the early down EPA rates for Tennessee, even though I think, this one is a little juiced up, I am concerned about Oklahoma's offense, and I just don't think they're going to be able to – they haven't produced against the teams they've looked to produce against, and now they're going to face the best defense they faced all year, which is Tennessee, regardless of how good you think they are or not. And then they're going to face also the best offense they faced all year. And, that's concerning. And we haven't even looked at, the Tennessee offense on the advanced statistics side of the ball. They're just crushing it, as they should, versus the competition they've had. So I think the line right now, I believe, is, let's see, it's ballooning up to 7.5 now. It just keeps going up. Now, that's hard to lay on the road. I get it. It's hard to, it's hard to lay those points on the road. So anybody who doesn't want to do that, I totally understand that. I don't really foresee a way that Oklahoma's going to win this game outside of a +3 turnover margin or something like that. And if that's not the case, if this game's played straight up with no major things like that, like defensive touchdowns or special teams touchdowns or any major gaffes, then Tennessee's probably going to just crush them. I believe that wholeheartedly. I think this team with Nico at quarterback, I'm not going to attempt to butcher his last name. I don't have the phonetics in front of me. I think they're primed to have a playoff-esque year. Now, I didn't pick them to win the SEC. I had I had Texas A&M in there as a sleeper, and I still stand behind them as it's a young season. But Tennessee to make the playoffs is not even out of the realm of possibility, especially with the volatility of that huge conference. So, but I think it's a pretty straightforward play. I think Tennessee is going to dominate early downs. I think Oklahoma is going to struggle, as they have struggled offensively already against a better defense. I just don't think they're going to be able to keep up over the course of 4 quarters. So that's going to be it for today's video, today's episode. as always, like, comment, subscribe. If you have any suggestions for games you want me to cover, if it's not on my list, I can try to work it in. I don't know if I'll be able to because I already have a decent amount I want to go over, but if it's earlier enough in the week, I could probably cover it. And then if you just have any questions or anything like that, you could reach out to me on Twitter. You can email me at themintnermethod@gmail.com. Other than that, thanks again for watching, listening, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.